Puranjana becomes a woman in the next life. So I'll continue. उत्तिष्ठो तिष्ठ राजर्षे इमामुदाधिमेखलां दस्युभ्यः शत्रबन्धुभ्यो बिभ्यातिं पातुमर्हसि. O best of the kings, please get up. So Vaidarbi is telling Malayadhwaj, who has died, get up, just see this world surrounded by water and infested with rogues and so-called kings. Who is saying this thing? So Vaidarbi was lamenting Malayadhwaj has passed. I think so. This may be Narad Muni speaking to Prachini Barishad. Oh, best of kings, please get up, get up. Just see this world. I think it is Vaidarbi speaking to Malayadhwaj. Just see this world surrounded by water and infested with rogues and so-called kings. Though this world is very much afraid, and it is your duty to protect her. Her means the world. So this world is infested with so many rogues and thieves, so you should protect. Whenever an acharya comes following the superior orders of the Supreme Personality of Godhead or its representative, he establishes the principles of religion as enunciated in Bhagavad Gita. Religion means abiding by the orders of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, as Krishna comes to restore law and order, the Acharya also comes to restore law and order. I mean, Krishna comes personally or he sends his messenger. Dharma sansthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. So, dharman tu sakshat bhagavad pranitam. So, Prabhupada says religion means abiding by the orders of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Means whatever Krishna has spoken, that is religion. We cannot manufacture our own religion. Just as we cannot write our own laws at home, right? We cannot write our own laws, traffic laws and civil laws and property laws and all these things at home. Similarly, religion comes from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that is propagated by the acharyas. Acharyas means three things, right? One who has understood the conclusion of the scriptures, one who is practicing in his life the conclusion of the scriptures, and the third thing is he is disseminating the conclusion of the scriptures to the world at large. So that is the job, or you can say the duty of the Acharya, to broadcast the message of Krishna. Religious principles begin from the time one surrenders to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So first step is surrender. Without surrendering, you have your own false ego and you accept what your mind says, right? You're not surrendering. Like we have to surrender to government's laws, right? Government says this is how it should be done. This is the traffic law. At the red light, you have to stop. So you say, I don't accept that. Then there is no question of following. So religious principles begins from the time one surrenders to the Supreme Personality of God. Means one accepts, yes, I will follow. I don't know, I am not intelligent. I will follow what Krishna is saying. It is the Acharya's duty to spread a bona fide religious system and induce everyone to bow down before the Supreme Lord. So Krishna is saying, bow down to me, and Acharya's duty is to make everybody aware of the supremacy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's why Prabhupada named his society International Society for Krishna Consciousness. He said, this is God, Krishna is God, and we are all subservient to him. We are Jivere Saruphoy Krishna Nityadas, Ekala Ishwar Krishna Arsa Bhritya. In the Bhagavad Gita also Krishna says, Matta Parataram Nanyat Kinchidashti Dhananjaya, Mai Sarvamidam Protam Sutre Maniganaiva. So there is no truth superior to me. Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo. Everywhere he is proclaiming that he is the Supreme Personality of God. And Acharya says, yes, Krishna is the Supreme Lord and one must bow down to him. One executes the religious principles by rendering devotional service, specifically the nine items like hearing, chanting, and remembering. So, by engaging in the nine processes of devotional service, we are executing religious principles. Unfortunately, when the Acharya disappears, rogues and non devotees take advantage and immediately begin to introduce unauthorized principles in the name of so called swamis, yogis, philanthropists, welfare workers, and so on. So, especially in Kali Yuga, so many people come and they propagate their own philosophy. So, without any reference to Krishna as the Supreme Lord, they propagate their own philosophy. So, that is very common. That's why we have so many different, organizations with different, philosophies like that. So, even after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left, so many Apasampradayas sprung up, and they distorted the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, and so the common man, lost faith in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because these people who were supposed to represent Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were deviating from the teachings. Actually, human life is meant for executing the orders of the Supreme Lord, and this is stated in Bhagavad Gita 9:34. So, what is the goal of human life? To execute the orders of Krishna. Manmana bhava mad bhakto madhyachi mam namaskuru mam eveshyasi yuktvaivam atmanam mad parayanaha. Engage your mind always in thinking of me and become my devotee. Offer obeisances and worship me, being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me. So, bowing down to the Lord, Namaskuru, is something we all can do, at least worshipping the Lord and always thinking of the Lord and becoming his devotee. Devotee means great, like in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, such a devotee of mine is very dear to me. In the 12th chapter, there are so many qualifications of devotees also, right? He has taken shelter of Krishna. He is free from the illusory energy. We are writing down all this. He is silent. He does not eat more than necessary. He controls his mind. He is expert. He is grave. He is silent. So many different qualities. He is kind. He is free from the desire for respect. So, like that, so many different qualities of a devotee. So, becoming devotee means big thing. Prabhupada says we are trying to become devotees. We are not devotees. Although Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says anybody who chants Krishna's name once is a devotee. So that's also there. The main business of human society is to think of the Supreme Personality of Godhead at all times, to become his devotees, to worship the Supreme Lord, and to bow down before him. The Acharya, the authorized representative of the Supreme Lord, establishes these principles. So Prabhupada, made so many temples, established so many temples. And so where all these things can be done, Namaskuru, you can worship the Supreme Lord. Sankirtan is there, chanting of the holy name, reading of Bhagavatam scriptures, which will remind us of Krishna, like that. But when he disappears, things once again becomes disordered. Even when Prabhupada left this planet, that time also there was so much turmoil, for some time at least. The perfect disciples of the Acharya try to relieve, and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur also, when he left, there was turmoil. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left after that also, it doesn't have to be like that, but that is general tendency because if is and we should follow them. Therefore, this Krishna consciousness movement is started to save the world from irreligious principles. Everyone should cooperate with this movement in order to bring about actual peace and happiness in this world. So, when there is adherence to God's laws, then there will be peace and harmony. Because by doing this, our consciousness will change. although there are government laws also, but they are not perfect laws, right? The government laws are there and everybody is supposed to abide, but still there is crime going on. So much crime going on. So because the heart is not clean and somebody is told to follow the law, but internally the heart is not clean. So forcibly one is made to follow the law, but internally he doesn't. So there is crime going on. And Chicago police officer, he complained to Prabhupada. I mean, that there is so much crime in the city. And in Chicago, it's crime infested city, big, big cities like that. So everywhere there is crime. So Prabhupada says, give us the facility to propagate the Sankirtan movement and distribute prasadam. Then the hearts will change. So So Prabhupada is saying everyone should cooperate with this movement in order to bring about actual peace and happiness. So if you want Ram Rajya like kind of situation, then let this Sankirtan movement spread. Let everybody chant the holy name of the Lord. Of course, that is also voluntary, but by doing that, then our heart will become clean and our desire for lording it over the material nature and our false ego will diminish. So will become free from anarthas, which is basically the root cause of all the problems. Okay, so any comments on this? So he's saying he has died just like Chitraketu Maharaj's son had died, and the mother was telling, get up, child, get up. See, we are all waiting for you. So even in Hiranyakashipu is telling this story about King Suyagna, who died on the battlefield, and then his wives were imploring him that you get up, who will protect us, like that. So nobody can protect anybody in this world. We all have to pass away. Yesterday we were reading this 1132, right, in the Bhagavad Gita. Time I am the destroyer of the world. And one sentence was very striking in the purport. I mean, it's all good, but Prabhupada says time is destruction and all manifestations are to be vanquished by the desire of the Supreme Lord. That is the law of nature. So nobody is going to survive. As Prabhupada writes in the Bhagavatam, right here, nobody is going to survive in this struggle with material existence. Of course, we as souls don't die, but in this situation is not going to. And everything will go into oblivion, into the ages, as they say. So, so there is a nice purport in the Bhagavatam also. This every whole thing is tossing with the waves of time, right? This whole, um, yeah. What is this? In 214, it says, read the purport. 1 minute. So the more we realize this, then we will use our time to attain a permanent situation. Deha patya kalatri dishva atma senishva satsvapi tesham pramado nidanam pashyanapi na pashyati. So in Prabhupada says this material world is the world of death. Every living being beginning from Brahma, whose duration of life is some thousands of millions of years, down to the germs, who live for a few seconds only, is struggling for existence. Everybody is working very hard with the hope that I will make a nice situation in this material world. Therefore, this life is a sort of fight with the material nature, which imposes death upon all. So you fight, and what you get in return, you die. Apavar, we say pavargasya, pafa babhama. Lot of hard work, parishram. Then there is always bhaya, whether I'll be successful. Before that, pafa, you fena, foam at the mouth, pafa, ba, then bandhan. After all this hard work, it creates bondage because you become attached to what you worked very hard for. Like you built a house or whatever it is. Pa, fa, ba. Ba means also byarthata, futility. And then bha is there. There is always anxiety. What will happen? How will the economy go? Will I lose my job? Will there be, my investments will be secure? Because everything is on a tottering platform. This whole economy can collapse. At any time, there can be war, puff, bub, her, and then finally, after going through this, mrityu. So Prabhupada is saying like that. Every living being, beginning from Brahma, whose duration of life is some thousands of millions of years, down to the germs who live for a few seconds only, is struggling for existence. Therefore, this life is a sort of fight with material nature, which imposes death upon all, and when it will come, we don't know. In the human form of life, a living being is competent enough to come to an understanding of this great struggle for existence, but being too attached to family members, society, country, etc., he wants to win over the invincible material nature by the aid of bodily strength, children, wife, relatives, etc. Although he is sufficiently experienced in the matter by dint of past experience and previous examples of his deceased predecessors. So, father, grandfather, and great grandfather, they all passed away. He does not see that the so called fighting soldiers, like the children, relatives, society members, and countrymen, are all fallible in the great struggle. One should examine the fact that his father or his father's father has already died. So, grandfather, maybe father may not have died, but grandfather has died or great grandfather, and that he himself is therefore also sure to die. And similarly, his children, who are the would be fathers of their children, will also die in due course. No one will survive in this struggle with material nature. The history of human society definitely proves it. Yet the foolish people still suggest that in future they'll be able to live perpetually with the help of material science. So we should think that death is coming fast. I only few, I only like a short time to live before death. And that's why one should, as Prabhupada says, one should accelerate one's devotional service. Like in that purport, Ayurharati vai Pumsam, he says one should accelerate the desire to become fully Krishna conscious and give up all material desires. That there should be an acceleration of this. Because death is going to come fast. This poor fund of knowledge exhibited by human society is certainly misleading. And it is all due to ignoring the constitution of the living soul. So people are in ignorance. Whole, this is all the illusory energy of the Lord, and everybody is bound here by the illusory energy of the Lord, and they cannot see the reality. Just as goats who are fed grass, they cannot see that goats before them have been slaughtered. So Prabhupada is saying that one should consider that their predecessors have passed away, and they will also pass away in due course of time. But the illusory energy is so great. Sometimes you get smashan vairagya, right? When somebody dies, then you feel, yeah, this is how it body ends. Then after some time, it's all forgotten, and then again all the desires start, and so that is how. So we have to constantly read this knowledge and Prabhupada's purports and like this, and hear and live in the association of devotees who will remind us of this fact daily, like regularly, so that we can remain, because we forget. This poor fund of knowledge exhibited by human society is certainly misleading and is all due to ignoring the constitution of the living soul. This material world exists only as a dream due to our attachment to it. Otherwise, the living soul is always different from the material nature. So we are in this dream and we are having attachment in this dream. The great ocean of material nature is tossing with waves of time, and the so-called living conditions are something like foaming bubbles. So in the tossing, when the waves toss, then there is some bubbles that happen, which appear before us as bodily self, wife, children, society, countrymen, etc. The bubble is going to burst in some time, but for some time it stays. So this is all like our body is also like a bubble. It is there today and gone tomorrow, right? And then all the bodies of everybody else connected also like that. Due to a lack of knowledge of self, we become victimized by the force of ignorance. So this is Atma Tattva, Atma Gyan, knowledge of the self, who we are, and when one is deeply realized about this, then he becomes detached. Due to a lack of knowledge of self, we become victimized by the force of ignorance and thus spoil the valuable energy of human life in a vain search after permanent living conditions, which are impossible in this material world. Vain means futile, useless. Useless search for establishing a permanent situation, which is not possible in this material world. Prabhupada would say there are so many empires, they're all gone now. So many people, Hitler wanted to establish his situation, Mussolini, and all these different dictators. Our friends, relatives, and so called wives and children are not only fallible but also bewildered by the outward glamour of material existence. So if they are not devotees, they are also bewildered, they also have their own ideas. As such, they cannot save us. Still, we think we are safe within the orbit of family, society, or country. The whole materialistic advancement of human civilization is like the decoration of a dead body. Dead body you decorate, but it's a dead body. Nobody will. Ultimately, it has to be burnt. So before it is burned in America, they will decorate the body and put it so that people will come and offer respects and like that, whatever. Everyone is a dead body, but what is the use, right? Because the soul has gone. Everyone is a dead body, flapping only for a few days. Yet all the energy of human life is being wasted in the decoration of this dead body. So then where should we spend our energy? We should spend our energy in the service of the Lord. So we should spend our energy to become to observe tapasya like that. Sukdev Goswami is pointing out the duty of human being. We have to use our energy. We have energy, but where we use our energy, that is. Sukdev Goswami is pointing out the duty of human being after showing the actual position of the bewildered human activities. Persons who are devoid of the knowledge of Atma Tattva are misguided. Means they don't know who they are, what is the purpose. But those who are devotees of the Lord and have perfect realization of transcendental knowledge are not bewildered. So we are bewildered in this material existence by the bodily conception of life. We don't uh, realize the needs of the soul and what is our situation and how we are just temporarily in this body. From Brahma's point of view, he must be laughing at us, right? They are trying so much, just as we laugh at an ant who lives for a few days. Brahma is laughing at us. So that in this short span of life, we are trying to, work so hard to adjust our material situation. Of course, some work has to be done, but just enough to maintain the body and soul together. Right? So that's how they say. And if you serve Krishna, then you can serve Krishna and Krishna will provide. So that is there. Okay, so the next verse. Any other comments? So she is telling that the world is still infested with rogues and so-called kings. So your duty is to protect her. So please get up, please get up. I mean, internally maybe she knows, but she has not come to terms with the fact that the soul has gone. So that most obedient wife thus fell down at the feet of her dead husband and began to cry pitifully in that solitary forest. And her husband was a devotee. Right? So thus the tears rolled down from her eyes. So this material world makes us cry, basically. Why? Because if we get attached to something, then it is taken away at some point, and then you have to cry. Or before that, when things don't work out, also you cry. So that is the so we have to cry to Krishna that Krishna, please, relieve me from this, bandhan. So Prabhupada says like This chanting of Hare Krishna is like cry for a baby, for the mother to help, Mother Hara. He says, just as a devoted wife becomes afflicted at the passing away of her husband, when a spiritual master passes away, the disciple becomes similarly bereaved. And the more you are attached to that person, the more is the. If you're not attached, there is no crying, right? Because there is no attachment. So, the more one is attached, then the more there is emotional grief. Why? Because now
But
you can.
here's the attachment.
Huh?
Here's the attachment with the devotee, right? He's his her husband also, and he's devotee also, right? So
Correct.
there's a verse, right? Prasangam ajram pashan atmana kavyo vidu sa ev sadhu krito moksha dwaram apavritam.
Correct.
So if the same attachment is material attachment, that will entangle because we don't know, right? Everybody has to, as you're saying, everybody has to go sooner or later. So if you're attached with something, and it is also said that what kind of consciousness when we leave the body, it decides our next journey, right? So if someone we are, let's say we are attached with anything, anything, and that person is not a devotee, so that maybe the next journey is not going back to Godhead. And if you're attached with that, so you will not go there. That for sure. So, an attachment is also, I often say this one that these are all the anarthas and attachment and illusion is like that, you, we are just holding, you say that, we are holding a tree and we are crying that I'm not, this tree is not leaving me, right? So one has to try to get out of all these things, at least by the knowledge and detachment, and this will comes through the devotional service. And in often said, I heard the Srila Prabhupada's lecture. In that lecture, he was saying that all the living entities and family and relations, everything is like a straw in the ocean. Like when the one wave comes and all the straws and everything comes together, and another wave come and it's all separated. So yeah, you also said that it's like a bubble. Life is like bubble, and even if you look at the bubble, they all the bubbles have their big sizes, right? Someone is like little, it will some pop up like very immediately, some pop up like little bit flying, and then uh, for short span of distance, like difference, but eventually all the bubbles will pop up. So yeah, this will comes through the knowledge, like it's all going on, and then we apply. This is very important, implementation. Mm.
It's a question of realization. So basically, I mean, we all understand it theoretically. It's so here. I there is a whole chapter on King Chitraketu's lamentation, right? So I think it's the next. So in that, all the verses are like this. In that whole sixth canto, when Narad Muni instructs him. So like, if you look at this verse 6:15, there also, that their son has died, and that king, and they are lamenting. So Prabhupada says the instructions given by Narada and Angira Muni are the true spiritual instructions for the illusion conditioned soul. This world is temporary, but because of our previous karma, we come here and accept bodies, creating temporary relationships in terms of society, friendship, love, nationality, and community, which are all finished at death. These temporary relationships did not exist in the past, means before our birth they did not exist, nor will they exist in the future. After our death, they will not exist. Therefore, at the present moment, the so called relationships are illusions. Then that's what you were saying. O king, as small particles of sand sometimes come together and are sometimes separated due to the force of the waves. The living entities who have accepted material bodies sometimes come together and are sometimes separated by the force of time. Like I think Radhika was mentioning that last that in the train, we are traveling in the train, and then different people leave their train. Like the misunderstanding of the conditioned soul is the bodily conception of life. The body is material, but within the body is the soul. This is the spiritual understanding. Unfortunately, one who is in ignorance, under the spell of material illusion, accepts the body to be the self. He cannot understand that the body is matter. Like small particles of sand, bodies come together and are separated by the force of time. And people falsely lament for the unification and separation. Prabhupada is saying falsely lament. Unless one knows this, there is no question of happiness. So, like that, all these verses are like that. Again, Prabhupada says, um, according to Vaishnava philosophy, however, the present situation is not false but temporary. It is like a dream. A dream does not exist before one falls asleep, nor does it continue after one awakens. The period for dreaming exists only between these two, and therefore it is false in the sense that it is impermanent. Similarly, the entire material creation, including our own creation and those of others, is impermanent. We do not lament for the situation in a dream before the dream takes place or after it is over. Yeah, before the dream, you don't know about the dream, obviously. And after it is over, you may remember the dream, but it was a dream after all. And so during the dream or during a dreamlike situation, one should not accept it as factual and lament about it. This is real knowledge. So, so while you are in the dream also, one should not accept it as a factual. Of course, when we dream at night, we are we don't have any consciousness that we are in the dream only. But during the day also, it is like a dream. So, okay, so Prabhupada talks about this day dream, night dream, all this.
Actually, that lamentation that we get is like we are selfish, and that person was doing something for us,
Hmm.
was giving enjoyment.
Hmm.
So, because as we heard, all the relationships in this world are transactional. You do
Transaction.
this for me, I'll do this for you. So, this lamentation is, oh, I've lost that person who was caring for me or doing this for me. We
But
are selfish and we love ourselves.
yeah, because natural tendency is that we want to be loved by others, right? We want to be loved by others, but and we want to love others. So somebody naturally, if somebody serves you, right? Like then naturally that there'll be attachment for that person because in this world there are very few people who really care about you. There's really very few people who care about. So really from your like from so somebody cares for you, then you become like obviously like very grateful to that. That's why they say like after in the grihastha ashram, uh, one when there is relationship, there is very becomes because the wife serves the husband serves the wife, and like that. Then to get out of that is very difficult because now there is attachment because it's because there is service and things like that. So to become detached is difficult. So for so many years there is service and like that. Okay, so we'll continue the next verse.
He was saying, Maharaj was saying yesterday, being a grihastha is more difficult than being a swami.
Mhm.
Very hard to control your senses, and then you develop this attachment. So,
Yeah.
would Prabhupada say that the percentage of, it goes down. How many people will go back home, back to garden?
Mhm.
Easier when you're just a brahmachari, you have no attachments. But most of our acharyas are grihasthas, so that doesn't say that they can't go back home, but it becomes difficult because of attachments and trying to control your senses.
Yeah, and attachment can be for sense gratification also. So, if attachment is maybe through Krishna, the acharyas have maybe like, but it is not for sense gratification. Then it is okay. They realize that everybody is spirit soul, and we are just in a journey for some time like that. Then it may be okay. But if attachment is based on sense gratification, then it can yeah. That becomes Griya Medi life also. He was saying, right, to actually be a Grihastha is very difficult. Prabhupada means to actually follow all the principles and things like that. And It's very
Garbhadan
difficult.
Sanskar.
That is for having a child, yes. So that all these things are nobody follows now. Of course, I cannot say nobody, but generally most of the mass of people who are in the married, they don't follow. So, and afterwards also there are so many, you have to raise your child in a proper way, you have to give them spiritual education. That is out of your control because after some time, your child will, whether they will, you, there is so much pressure right outside in the school and to make material progress, and then so many things are there. So it's very difficult to raise children in Krishna consciousness in this age because of the influences and all these things. So, but that attempt is bhakti. Yeah, that's why it's very difficult.
So, Prabhuji, and regarding the sense gratification,
Hmm.
uh, like uh, I think in with sometimes some we know our impurities, but sometimes we don't open up our impurities because there is no one that we trust enough. For example, when we go to doctor, then that time we open up. Unless we open up completely, then doctor also cannot prescribe
That's true.
the. But in our impurities are sometimes we feel shy. How can I say this? Now I'm already in grihastha life. uh, I still have this and that. So sometime due to that, sometime, and there is no such person around. If it is Srila Prabhupada, yes, we can open up. But there is no such person. Sometime your heart doesn't trust,
Hmm.
and then those impurity remain with you,
Hmm.
and they come back again and again and again, and kind of affects the sadhana.
Yeah, so I mean, they say that you should have somebody in your life with whom you can reveal your heart, and obviously that person has to be more advanced than you. So generally, they say when you take initiation, the spiritual master like that, he's the one with whom you should be because you have now put faith in that person. So you have to, maybe not everybody, but at least one or two like that with whom you have that trust and confidence. And you can tell, okay, this is my impurity in the heart, this is what I'm feeling, how can I overcome this obstacle in my heart? And in one sense, by reading Prabhupada's books and everything, you already know that, of course, you may have to make some adjustments in your life and things like that, and that person may tell you. But inherently, you know, because if you have heard so many classes and so many, now, even if somebody tells you, like if you go to doctor, you reveal the heart and you say, I have this problem, then the doctor prescribes a medicine. Then ultimately, then you have to take the medicine, and then that's the when you will be cured. So you may reveal your heart and you may say so many things, but then one has to take the guidance and accept it and implement it in one life, right? That's ultimately the solution that will bring about a change in our consciousness. So if you read Prabhupada's books, yeah, I mean, like one time there is this conversation with Prabhupada, right? They say, what if a person is like not, is still affected by sense gratification? Is And it is then Prabhupada says then one should increase his devotional service. Then he should chant more rounds, like that he said. He should chant more, like that. Then if the fever of sense gratification is not going down, then he should chant more. But that determination is very, so it ultimately boils down to your determination, and and of course not only the quantity of chanting but also the quality of chanting. So like that, so how much determined we are, ultimately it comes to that, how much determined we are to change our consciousness. That is the as I understand. I may be wrong, but of course, mercy from the acharyas, and it is already they give you the instructions. Srila Prabhupada's mercy is there in the form of his books, his instructions, his classes, and his disciples also. So, in one sense, it is already available, but then how much
So Prabhuji,
we take, yeah.
I mean, no, I was thinking
It's
more
like
in terms of like
just
practical.
one thing. If it's like you don't have a job, right? So how bad you are feeling about it, right? I don't have a job. I have to get a job. This I cannot be in this situation. I have to do something. So how desperate you are, basically. Ultimately, then you'll say, "Oh no, no, I have to look for a job." So similarly, it is with same thing with our consciousness. If our consciousness is right, and what can I do? What can I do to change it? Maybe I'll go to the like Draupadi. She was desperate. She went to Drona. She went to Bhishma. Somehow I have to change. I have to become. So when there is a very uh, like what you can say, very very eagerness, right? We say eagerness. Tatra lolyam abhi mulyam ekalam. When there is greed means eagerness. Here, if there is a very strong eagerness that yes, I want to go back home, back to Godhead. I don't want this. That's why Prabhupada said when he was asked, what is the qualification for going back to Godhead? He didn't say Krishna Katha, like, of course, that is there, but at that time he said, first you have to be convinced that this material world is a very miserable place. I am in a problematic situation. Then you will want to find the solution, and then you will be eager to accept the solution, which is Krishna Katha, of course, Krishna Naam, Krishna Katha, like that. But unless you feel that you are in a bad situation, that's why Prabhupada writing all these purports, right? How we are temporary and all these things, and so that, of course, everybody, we are all at different levels, and however we feel from in our heart, that's what it is. Yeah, sorry, I just want to finish my thought in this. Go ahead,
No,
Prabhu.
thank you, Prabhuji. Yeah, no, I was thinking of the practical, like, as you said, that's very nice, Prabhuji. Levels are different because, example is if someone is appearing for the examination,
Hmm.
in general terms also, like some students, they do self-study, just reading by books, their determination is strong, they focus, they score high. But there are some students, just by reading books, they may not be able to return. So that's why they need at least some coach who always handhold, always correct, always work, always, it's like a physical presence.
Hmm.
And that's what we see. That's we see do these two flavors. Some students need a coach, and some students, they are not at a level of just self study, and then they can take it to the next level. So thank you, Prabhu.
That's why living in the association, like in the ashram, like like in Pune, right? There's a lot of devotees, Radhe Shyam Prabhu, and so many devotees are there. So if you live in an environment like Keshav Maharaj was saying, you can't change the external world. You cannot, but you can choose the world in which you want to live. There are so many things, right? He talked about so many different worlds. There is a world inside us, and there is the world you choose to live in. So the world you choose to live in will affect the world inside you. He was saying like that. So we can put ourselves in that association, and that is the choice that we have. So if we put ourselves in that association like that, then naturally, by seeing others and uh, seeing their example and how fixed they are in devotional service, then naturally we will also feel inspired. Oh yes, and then hearing classes and reading books in the association, then that's how all these devotees became fixed up, because they spent so many years following the whole program that Prabhupada gave, for so many years, and they are continuing to do that, right? So that's the way you become fixed up. So of course, if we are grihasthas, we cannot live in the temple in that situation like that, because so then, yeah, we have to stay close to a temple and take regular association like that, and that will actually bring about So we need to associate with advanced devotees, and by hearing from them, and then our consciousness will change. So that is the process. So, correct? Did I say anything wrong?
No, yes, Prabhuji. And somewhere where I question or I struggle is how do I find something I can open up my mind, because I know there may be many such senior devotees, Matajis, Prabhujis, but sometimes we don't know where I can go and open up. And that's, I don't know there is any formula for that, but somewhere we have to try. Okay, maybe I can open up with this person or that person, is basically try, and that's all.
Yeah, it's
Thank
like, in a relationship, right? It doesn't happen overnight, suddenly. So you talk to that devotee, you have like, and then you finally your trust develops. Like in marriage also, right? That initially it is not like, but then over many years, and then like then maybe there is some trust and confidence, and then like that. So it's like a relationship. So relationship develops over time when you frequently talk to that person. In the beginning, you may not reveal your heart, everything, but then you feel that this person is really very, my well wisher. Is really like, he has, he will guide me properly, and then that's how basically, ideally, when you select a spiritual master, that is how it is supposed to be. That you develop a relationship, personal connection, where you test the spiritual master tests. Jiva Goswami says like that. And then you build a rapport, kind of a relationship. And then you can communicate. Right now, of course, in the modern day thing, it's very difficult to, because the spiritual master may have thousands and tens thousands of disciples, and it's not able to communicate. Then whoever you may feel like, it doesn't have to be that spiritual master or anybody, but any person whom you can reveal your heart. So it that thing develops over time, that confidence, and that, okay, this person, first of all, that person has to be really your well wisher, and you should get that confidence. And then there is, he really desires your welfare. He has no ulterior motive, and he really wants your welfare. That's the main thing. And then there is trust that whatever you tell him, he's not going to broadcast it to the whole world and use it against you, like that. So then, slowly and gradually, you can reveal your heart. And that person also has to be advanced, because if he is also having the same problem as you are having, then it's difficult. There's cannot help. So, it has to be like that. Like, what is the three things we say, right? Sajatiya. What is the three things? Radhika.
Sajatya, Snigdasya, and Ashraya. Means like-minded. Sajatya, Snigdasya should have affection for you, and Ashraya should be more advanced than you.
More advanced. So in that way, then you can reveal your mind. And then, of course, there is trust. Like that. So, okay. So, yeah, sometimes one devotee told me, yeah, I have so many friends, but there is not one I can reveal my heart to. One devotee was telling me. He is in a big position. So, he was telling me like that. Okay, so 42850. चितिं दारुमयीं चित्वा तस्यां पत्युकलेवरम् आदिप्य चानुमरणे विलपन्ति मनोददे. She then prepared a blazing fire with firewood and placed the dead body of her husband upon it. So she's now realized actually her husband has passed away and she needs to burn the body. When this was finished, she lamented severely and prepared herself to perish in the fire with her husband. And also that in that I was thinking that the person should also have time for you, right? If the person doesn't have time, then really it's like, because it's like, if you if you want to have a relationship, then you have to invest time in that person. Invest time, then only there can be a relationship. There is no time investment because that person is very busy with so many projects. We can take advice and things like that, but if you have if you need to be constantly guided, then that person has to be having time for you, right? Because you are saying that there is a coach, there has to be a coach who will monitor your daily progress and things like that, and you can speak to him frequently. So just like we say, the more you read Bhagavatam, then the more you have a relationship with Bhagavatam. So you have to invest time if you want to establish any relationship, close relationship in this world. If you don't invest time, and if I want to be friends with somebody, if I only see them on their birthday or wish them on their birthday, then that's it. Then it's just that kind of relationship. It's once a year relationship, or like that. But if you regularly call and you talk to them, then there is time invested, and there is interest, because you put your time where you have your interest. So then there is like that. So somebody really cares for you, then they'll put their time in you, right? The, they are really, then you feel, yes, this person really cares for me. But when they don't have time, then you feel like, yeah, it's so that is they are not, they're not concerned about me. So so that is also there. These are all, I mean, the psychological things. So when this was finished, she lamented severely and prepared herself to perish in the fire with her husband. So she wanted to die with her husband in the fire. It is a long standing tradition of the Vedic system that a faithful wife dies along with her husband. So she goes where her husband has gone, and if husband is a pure devotee, then that's how something was there. Madhuri also committed, like Sati, she after her husband Pandu. This is called Sahamaran. In India, this system was prevalent. For me, it's very difficult to accept this, but this is Prabhupada is saying this is the Vedic system. It was there before. Sahamaran means dying together. Saha means together, Maran. In India, this system was prevalent even to the date of British occupation. So this also shows that there is so much attachment to the husband that one cannot stay without the husband, and so they would living is more painful than burning in the fire. They say of all kinds of death, somebody was saying, this death by burning in the fire is the most painful. We know how we get little burn on our skin, and it forms a blister and it pains for a long time. So whole body is burning in the fire. So at that time, however, a wife who does not wish to die with her husband was sometimes forced to do so by her relatives. So it became like instead of voluntarily doing that, it became forced. Formerly, that was not the case. The wife used to enter the fire voluntarily. The British government stopped this practice, considering it inhuman. So, in one sense, also, it is like excessive attachment for the husband. But if the husband is a pure devotee, then it's fine. However, from the early history of India, we find that when Maharaj Pandu died, he was survived by two wives, Madhuri and Kunti. The question was whether both should die or one should die. After the death of Maharaj Pandu, his wives settled that one should remain and another should go. Madhuri would perish with her husband in the fire, and Kunti would remain to take charge of the five Pandava children. Even as late as 1936, we saw a devoted wife voluntarily enter the fire of her husband. This indicates that a devotee's wife must be prepared to act in such a way. Similarly, a devoted disciple of the spiritual master would rather die with the spiritual master than fail to execute the spiritual master's mission. So he's so in Prabhupada, like he was so desperate, so uh, determined to execute his spiritual master's mission. You can see that he was trying from the time he got the order, he was trying his printing back to Godhead and distributing and it was very difficult for him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead comes down upon this earth to re-establish the principles of religion. So his representative, the spiritual master, also comes to re-establish religious principles. It is the duty of disciples to take charge of the mission of the spiritual master and execute it properly. Otherwise, the disciple should decide to die along with the spiritual master. In other words, to execute the will of the spiritual master, the disciple should be prepared to lay down his life and abandon all personal considerations. Like Prabhupada's disciples were so surrendered, right? Then they would do whatever the Prabhupada said. And they, like in Bombay, right? That's so much austerity. One lady was being pulled by hair and so many threads. And so do or die. That's basically the, like in military, Prabhupada says sometimes, military, the commander gives the order. So you have to follow it, that's it. Even if it means your death. So those who are like that, Prabhupada's disciples were very, what do you say, very risk-taking. Because Prabhupada wanted them to go somewhere where there was no temple, like Malati Mataji, right? She went to London. So, and because one thing is also there, when you don't have anything much, then you don't have anything to lose. So these were all your kind of, disciples. Many were hippies, and they had nothing, they had no possessions, they were like vagabond kind of thing, and not having like great careers and things like that. And they were, so if somebody says like that, you go here, then okay, there's nothing much anyway going on in my life. But when there is a lot of things going on materially, and then you're told that no, you do, instead of doing this, you do this, then you have so much at stake, right, to lose like that. So I'm not going, it's not like I'm taking credit away from all these devotees but Prabhupada said, like, if the family attachment is not, he said in one lecture, that in West the family attachment is not strong, so they will come and join the movement, they will stay and like that. But in India he tried to ask, and because of strong family attachment, nobody came to help Srila Prabhupada in his spreading of Krishna consciousness. He had put an advertisement. So he said, this is, when you don't have attachments and you don't have any possessions, then you can, like we say, that how swiftly Nanda Maharaj and they all moved from Gokul Mahavan to Vrindavan, because in the bullock carts they put. So those who don't have much possessions, who don't have many, they can just move from one place to another very fast. So brahmacharis or things like that, they are not tied to there. So they can just pick up their bag, they can, maybe all their belongings will fit in a bag and just move. So like that also. So they also were not, they were kind of, they'd given up their family and they were trying different things. And so they could, when Prabhupada came, Krishna, the time was right and Prabhupada came, and then they all came to help Srila Prabhupada. So, okay, there are pros and cons of this, but Prabhupada said like that in one class. If you're all,
Yeah, I was thinking that this giving up of one's life along with the husband, I think that's a lower dharma. Just like how, when the gopis left their families, Krishna said, you go back to your husbands and children. But the higher dharma is to surrender to Krishna. So the Vedic, I don't know which Vedas it's mentioned here, and the Vedas cater to all type of people also. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's wife did not give up her body when he left.
correct.
And Of course, it's not practiced because every person has their own plane to fly, and everybody wants to, so they're not thinking, oh, I have to be with my husband, wherever he goes. They understand it's temporary relationship, we will not be together. So my higher dharma is to surrender to Krishna and give my life now, fully dedicate to Krishna.
I don't know if it is true that if they self-immolate themselves in the fire, then they go where their husband is gone. All these things doesn't make sense in one sense, because after all, we don't remember our.
Yeah, they like once you leave the body, you don't remember any relationships that you have had.
Yeah,
But
but
they also say in the marriage vows, we heard that you live together for at least 7 lives.
yeah,
I've heard.
yeah. This all, who knows? All this is. I mean, even if it is true, right? 7 lives, but then what about those who got divorced and then they married again? And
And they don't want to live the rest of other lives together.
or they don't want to like be with that person because it's not very
Mhm.
congenial and things like that.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, I
some
think this is all lower dharma.
lower dharma, yes.
Yeah.
Ultimately,
Yeah,
yeah,
this is what I was also thinking, that how the soul once lives and can remember. But I have heard that in the Garud Purana, it is mentioned that soul is so much attached with the body. So for few days, I guess, it is they remember everything, and soul even try to come back to the body and try to connect with the family members as also. So for some time, there's a kind of a journey, they travel out of the earth or somewhere, some kind of plane. So till then, the soul has remembered everything because of the attachment with the body and the members of the family.
that's why they do all this last rites. They recite Bhagavatam, right? We had that story
13
of,
days.
yeah,
Yeah.
somebody
Right.
was delivered and all this, yeah. But those who are spiritually advanced, for them, yeah, all these things are not necessary also, because they will go back to Krishna and like that.
Mm.
So they're not lingering around there because they don't have attachments in that. But we don't know. So maybe if there was attachment, let's do the Antin Sanskar also like that. So it's like, yeah,
Because our body is Krishna's property, should not be destroyed.
yeah. So
And even here it says that if a disciple fails to fulfill the order of spiritual master, he better dies. I mean, we have the example of Vishnu Swami Maharaj, right? Who may have fallen down for something and then he felt so bad that he committed suicide, which Prabhupada said it was wrong. So we should never give up. Our devotee is always hopeful. Even if he falls down, he gets up and repents and starts doing service again.
yeah. So yeah, it's better if we have good association. If you're in the shelter of the devotees, then very nice. We will progress in spiritual life. So we have to create very nice uh, association if there is none, or like that
We should be a good association for
for
others.
others. Correct.
Because we can't control others, we can control ourselves. For us, everybody should be interested to have our
We
association
should
because
become
we are
pure
kind,
devotees. Yeah.
compassionate, and yeah, advanced and spiritual.
We should become pure devotees. That's the
Hmm.
best thing to do. I mean, Prabhupada wants us, all of us, to become pure devotees. So, of course, it's easier said than done. So, but yeah, pure devotee never feels is pure devotee. But yeah, we know in our heart if we have contaminations, like how to we have to pray to Krishna. We have to take guidance from other those who are very advanced, and in this way we can also become purified by hearing and like that. Okay, so we'll read one more verse. We'll read, my dear king, one Brahmana was an old friend of King Puranjana. So Puranjana became Vaidarbhi, And Malaya Dwaj, she married Malaya Dwaj. So there in the last life, uh, Puranjana had a friend. So Malaya Dwaj's friend. No, no. Vaidarbi's friend in the last life. It came. So that friend came. Because Vaidarbi is Puranjana in the last life. So one Brahmana who was an old friend of King Puranjana came to that place and began to pacify the queen with sweet words. So, but of course, Vaidarbi doesn't remember that this was my friend in my last life when she was Puranjana. The appearance of an old friend in the form of a Brahmana is very significant. In his Paramatma feature, Krishna is the old friend of everyone because he is the one who has been there with us all the time, nobody else. According to Vedic injunction, Krishna is sitting within the living entity side by side. Of course, we don't feel his presence like that as a friend in the heart. But Prabhupada says when one takes renounced order of life, then he should be fearless. He should know that the Lord is always with him. And even if he is in the midst of the darkest jungle at night, he should not feel afraid, knowing that Paramatma is with him in the heart. Abhayam Sattva Sanshuddhir, that purport Prabhupada writes that, yeah. So, of course, anybody, if we feel the presence of the Lord with us, then we'll become fearless. And that's why Prahlad was fearless, because he felt the presence of Lord. So, then there is no anxiety. We say, like, right, if Bill Gates comes and says, I will take care of you, don't worry about this. So, the more we have faith in the Lord, Rakshashi Ititi Vishwash. Oh, if I give my life to Krishna, Krishna will protect me. So then that faith will, inspire one to surrender like that. According to the Shruti mantra, Dva Suparna Sayujya Sakhaya, the Lord is sitting within the heart of every living entity as Surit, the best friend. Krishna is our friend. The Lord is always eager to have the living entity come home back to Godhead. Sitting with the living entities as witness, the Lord gives him all chances to enjoy himself materially. But whenever there is an opportunity, the Lord gives good counsel. Because we have come to enjoy in this material world, the Lord is providing all the facilities for enjoyment. But as soon as one feels a little distressed or a little inquisitive, then the Lord takes that opportunity, grabs that opportunity and gives good counsel and advises the living entity to abandon trying to become happy through material adjustment and instead turn his face towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead and surrender unto him. So Krishna in the heart inspires that, okay, give up all this material trying to adjust this through becoming happy through material adjustment. It will never work out. Just surrender to me. That's what Prabhupada is saying. When one becomes serious to follow the mission of the spiritual master, his resolution is tantamount to seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So following the acharyas is tantamount, means it is equivalent, it is equal to getting audience, because by that you will get audience with the Supreme Lord by following the path given by the acharyas. This path will lead to direct darshan of the Supreme Lord if you follow the path given by the great souls. As explained before, this means meeting the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the instruction of the spiritual master. This is technically called Vani Seva. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur states in his Bhagavad Gita commentary on the verse beginning, Vyavasayitmika Buddhi Ekyeha Kuru Nandana, that one should serve the words of the spiritual master. The disciple must stick to whatever the spiritual master orders. So not only doing in 1 day, 2 days, you should stick with it throughout your life. Simply by following on that line, one sees the Supreme Personality of God. Because Krishna says, oh, this is my devotee and he is following my devotee. He is become servant of my devotee. So Krishna becomes more inclined to give his darshan. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, that's why Krishna says, those who are my devotees, they are not my devotees. Those who are devotees of my devotees, they are my devotees. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Paramatma, appeared before the queen as Brahmana. But why didn't he appear in his original form as Sri Krishna? Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur remarks that unless one is very highly elevated, so Paramatma appeared before the queen as a Brahmana. So this is the super soul appearing. But why didn't he appear as Sri Krishna? Okay, what does that mean? The Brahmana was not in the form as Krishna's form, but he's still Krishna only. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur remarks that unless one is very highly elevated in loving the Supreme Personality of God, one cannot see him as he is. Nonetheless, if one sticks to the principles enunciated by the spiritual master, somehow or other he is in association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Since the Lord is in the heart, he can advise a sincere disciple from within. It is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Tesham satadayuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upyanti te. To those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they come to me. In conclusion, if a disciple is very serious to execute the mission of the spiritual master, he immediately associates with the Supreme Personality of God by Vani or Vaku. So sometimes we may say, well, I didn't get any specific instruction from my spirit. But the instructions are there. It's not only my Diksha Guru, but my Shiksha Guru. Srila Prabhupada is the Shiksha Guru, and he's giving so many instructions in his books. So we may have got specific instructions or not, but there are so many general instructions, right? You chant Hare Krishna very attentively, avoid committing offenses, follow the principles, regulative principles, preach to others about Krishna, eat only prasadam, rise early in the morning, read my books. Prabhupada says, read my books every day. So all these things are there. Instead of being eager to see the Lord in some bush of Vrindavan, while at the same time engaging in sense gratification, if one instead sticks to the principle of following the words of spiritual master, he will see the Supreme Lord without difficulty. Srila Bilva Mangal Thakur has therefore said, Bhakti stvai sthira tara bhagwan yadi syad devena falati divya kishora murti mukti swayam mukulitanjali sevate asman dharmartha kama gataya samaya pratiksha. So sthira means if one becomes steady in devotional service, then obviously, then with that he will see the Divya Kishore Murti, the divine form, the Kishore form of Krishna. And Mukti will stand with folded hands, waiting. He doesn't have to try for Mukti. He just has to become steady in Bhakti. Then Mukti is automatically achieved. And everything else will come. Dharma, Artha, Kama, Gata, so everything else will. Of course, devotee doesn't want any Kama. He is pure devotee. If I am engaged in devotional service unto you, my dear Lord, then very easily I can perceive your presence everywhere. And as far as liberation is concerned, I think that liberation stands at my door with folded hands, waiting to serve me. And all material conveniences of Dharma, Artha, Kama stand with her. If one is very highly advanced in devotional service, he will have no difficulty in seeing the Supreme Personality of God. If one engages in the service of the spiritual master, he not only sees the Supreme Personality of God, but attains liberation. As far as material conveniences are concerned, they automatically come, just as the maid servants of a queen follow the queen wherever she goes. Liberation is no problem for the pure devotee, and all material conveniences are simply awaiting him at all stages of life. So then we may say, well, why devotees are poor? Why, if everything is going to come, then why devotees have to struggle for artha, money, and things like that. So one thing is that because Krishna may think that it is not good for us if we get all these things, he may restrain it. And sometimes the devotee doesn't want it, like Sudama, he didn't want. He was not wanting all this. Krishna may think that, or the devotee may be not completely, pure to handle it. That's or may not be completely surrendered. So, okay, so we'll stop here. Thank you everyone for joining.
But in case of Kusu, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I was thinking that in case of Sudama, but Sudama has a pride of his being a renunciant, right? And Krishna gave that a lot of.
Yeah, later on he gave him but he was the kind of devotee. One purport is mentioned that he was the kind of devotee. Some devotees are indifferent if they get money but he didn't want. He was attached to his austerity, right? So he didn't want. So Krishna was not giving also. Then of course, then he gave him later. So some devotees don't want any kind of thing to do with sense gratification. So they are, even if it comes like that, they say, no, no, I don't want it, I don't want it. So like that, that is mentioned in one purport. And others are like, okay, I mean, I will use in Krishna's service. Yeah. So, okay, yeah.
And going through the difficulties, the devotees are becoming purified. It's to remove the last vestiges of the enjoying spirit.
Correct. Sometimes somebody had a bad experience, so they don't want, like, they know the pitfalls, and so they don't want. Yeah, bad experience also makes one say no. So that's like Prabhupada said, like that. Even if somebody tells me to again enter this career, I will never do it because he had his experience. So even if somebody gives me millions of dollars, I will not do it because he had his experience. Of course, this is a pure devotee. So. Anyhow, so we'll stop here. Thank you everyone for joining in. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna.
Dandavad
Hare Krishna.
pranams.
Dandavad. Hare Krishna.